guys, and welcome back to Motorsport Madness, and today we're going to be doing something slightly different from what we normally do. We're going to be doing some science experiments, well, kind of. But today I thought we'll do some speed tests, and I've never actually done any speed tests on this channel before. Now normally I'll do some races or might try out some wacky, crazy stuff like taking an F1 car on the rally stage or stuff like that. But recently I had a thought in my head like, everyone sorts of bangs on about how good the 1930s racing scene was and how dominant the Silver Arrows were, and I thought to myself, I don't actually know how fast they go. Now I've driven these cars, the ones that we're going to try out today, many times, and obviously experienced how fast they are, but I've never actually seen any sort of number. I've just kind of felt how fast they were by judging how fast the trees are going past my head or how fast I hit a brick wall. But today we're going to find out those answers, and I'm sure a lot of you out there are wondering how fast these cars truly went, as these cars showed up in the mid-1930s and basically just dominated the Grand Prix racing scene at the time. At the start of the 30s, kind of dominated by Bugatti and Alfa Romeo, and from the mid-30s, Mercedes and Auto Union just destroyed everything. And now, if you don't know what happened, it's definitely something interesting to look into, how the Mercedes and Auto Union cars came about. To put it quite in a short story, basically the government of Germany at the time, which was, as you probably know who that was, basically decided to give Mercedes a load of money to help them develop the best car, so then Germany could be the best car manufacturer in Grand Prix racing. And Auto Union, who at the time was led by Ferdinand Porsche, basically had a great design and wanted that money as well, so he could build that design, and the government agreed, and then became this rivalry between Mercedes and Auto Union, was led throughout most of the late 30s until the outbreak of the Second World War. And these cars were unlike anything seen before. These had insane, massive engines, including the Auto Union, which had a V16 engine in the back, which had never been seen before. Yeah, massive engines before, but never in the back. Not well. Technically, the Auto Union is actually mid-mounted because it's actually mounted before the rear axle. But everyone just says it's rear-mounted. I say it's rear-mounted. But yeah, we had so much innovation, and it had an aircraft engine in the back. The Auto Union is absolutely insane car to drive, and a lot of these cars are incredibly difficult to drive. And not to mention the streamlining that these two teams came about in the 1930s, which we'll get on to later. Now, I've featured these cars, like I said, on this channel before. In fact, my most popular video is where I did the Avis Renault from 1937 in the Mercedes W25 Streamlined version, and it kind of gave me the idea. It was like, right, let's do a test, let's see how fast these things can truly go on their own. So I decided to do this video. Now we have 6 cars to try out. Actually, this is actually the second time I've recorded this video, because the first time I recorded it, which was yesterday, it ended up being over an hour long. I don't know how it happened, but we're going to try and keep it as short as sweet for you guys. And I've actually cut a lot of cars out from the start, because originally this was going to be a base test of 1930s cars in general, but now I've just decided to do the Silver Arrows instead. I'm also comparing the speed times to the F1 2022 car, which achieved 205 miles per hour, and that gives us a good benchmark to try and attain. Now each of these cars will be taking a lot of fuel out to go to 10 litres only, so we can try and get as fast as humanly possible. And you're probably wondering where we are. We are at Avis, which features a stupidly long straight, followed by a curve, then a stupidly long straight, followed by the wall of death, and that's a lap. 4 turns, that's all it is. And that's what I thought would be appropriate for today's tests as we test out the Silver Arrows. Now the Silver Arrows is obviously associated with Mercedes, but could also be associated with Auto Union as well, since they were also silver. So yeah, very interesting history surrounding these cars. Definitely worth checking out if you have the time, and also check out some of my other videos where I'm driving these things in race situations, and hopefully get to do them all again. at some point in the future. I'm sure I will. I'm sure I will. Don't worry. I'm not going away anytime soon. And so the first car I'm going to be testing is the Mercedes W25, which you are seeing on the screen now. This mod is developed by Casual Sim Studios, or otherwise known nowadays as Historic Sim Studios. They're a fantastic modding studio. They've got so many cars in development, including some cars that might be featured in the Historic F1 series in the future. But for now, this is probably one of my favourites from their category and the catalogue of mods. This isn't finished. This is only available in his Patreon page, which I'll leave a link in the description as always whenever I'm featuring his cars, and it's absolutely worth every single penny. The sound of this thing alone is just worth a lot of money. It's just incredible sound this thing has, and this thing has a straight 8 supercharged engine in it, capable of putting out about 400 to 500 horsepower. Well, actually no, I think that's incorrect, about 200 to 400 horsepower, so pretty powerful, and a lot more powerful than Bugatti and Alfa Romeo, which I tested yesterday, which could only manage about 140 miles per hour between them. So what can this Mercedes W25 do? We shall find out. Let's take it for a run. Right then, here we are. We're at the start of the Wall of Death, which you're seeing just over there, right in front of us. And I thought, well, you guys love the Wall of Death. Everyone loves the Wall of Death for some reason, because it's such a fascinating piece of racing history. So I thought we would start on the Wall of Death, and which will propel ourselves up the straight, and then once we hit the end of the track, we won't stop. We won't be using any brakes. We're just going to keep on going until we hit the edge of the circuit, which will glitch out, I'll crash, and hopefully transfer me to the pit lane. But I will cut it so you won't have some puke-inducing weird thing going on. But anyway, Mercedes W25. Let's see what you can do. We go on the amazing Wall of Death as it bounces around. It's not level at all here, which is not really surprising since it's made of brick, as we get a nice exit as well. Now, if you didn't know much about Avis, it forms part of the Autobahn network in Germany. In fact, if you go there now, you can still see the grandstand that we passed, and that sort of Mercedes motel, if you notice it, that's still there, and obviously this road is still there. And it was actually used in the 90s. It's for DTM, because it stopped Grand Prix racing in the 30s, of course, with the outbreak of the Second World War, but it was continued to be used again in the 50s, and Formula 1 actually came here in 1959 for the German Grand Prix. And as you can see with the speedo there, we have already exceeded the Bugatti and the Alfa Romeo pretty comfortably as well. 169 miles an hour for a car built in 1934, and 170 now. So it's still pretty quick. It would have definitely, you can clearly see why this car was so successful when you got the Bugattis and the Alfa Romeos putting out 140 miles an hour on average, and you got this thing going at 170. Probably other circuits such as Donington and probably Monza probably not, but Spa maybe probably won't get, or you might just touch these speeds, but you probably won't be able to just comfortably just sit on it like we are here. But just listen to this sound. It just sounds so evil, so brutal. That supercharger obviously is what you're hearing, that whining sound. I remember when this car was announced, a lot of people were criticising this mod for that sound. But if you listen to this thing in real life, it really does make the sound, and it really is this loud. And here we are then, we're right at the end. We're normally turn there, but we've got the edge of the circuit now. 172, can we get a bit more? 173. So that went pretty well, I think. 173 miles an hour was our final speed there, just as we hit the edge of the circuit. Pretty impressive for 1934. And I gotta say, I didn't actually realise this car was that fast. I thought it was a little bit slower than that, but 173 miles per hour. So pretty good. And like I said, you could easily see why this car was so dominating in when this thing turned up. I think it was the French Grand Prix of 1934 where it's made its debut, and as you've seen in the F1 Evolution video, it just went ahead and just stayed there, and the Bugattis and the Alfa Romeos had no chance until 1936, when a car which I've already mentioned showed up, and it kind of changed things a little bit. Right, you knew this was happening. Here we are once again in the wonderful Auto Union Type C. And in fact, actually, the other day I was playing some War Thunder in VR, and I was flying a German biplane. I was sat in the cockpit and I was thinking, hang on, this feels very familiar. And just sort of remember, this feels like I'm in a Auto Union Type C. I'll bring up a comparison if I remember, but I was just sat there thinking, so the Auto Union's cockpit is very similar to a plane, and I'm sat here thinking, yeah, it's pretty much, this pretty much is like piloting a plane from the 1930s. I mean, in the back, like I mentioned, we have a V16 engine, which is about, I think it was a 5.4 litre. This is a massive engine. You probably find them on a Heinkel bomber or something. It's absolutely crazy. And this thing went around the Nürburgring, Bremgarten. I'm just like, screw that royally. But this car is a lot of fun to drive, despite its difficulty. And hopefully in the future, if I get a bit more practice, I'll take it on the Nürburgring or Targa Florio maybe. And yeah, it's a wonderful, and I'm actually really proud that I was able to have the opportunity to basically sit right here and just admire it in all its beauty. Whilst it was revving as well, right next to my head, I didn't have earplugs, and I'm gonna say it was a little bit loud. Right then, so let's take it on. Lots of wheel spin from this thing, obviously. You probably. No surprises there. But we've got 173 miles an hour to beat, which I'm sure this thing will comfortably do that. Full power, let's do it. Oh, nice exit there. Whew, that was nice. But this thing is capable of wheel spinning at any time, which hopefully we'll be able to catch and just keep it under control. And this car was actually featured in the F1 Evolution video, and it was just so far behind the rest of the field, because obviously I think you know what cars we're going to be doing. I think that's as many gears as we have. I think we only have 4 gears. Yep. So as we go up, let's just admire this thing. It feels wonderful to drive, and I gotta say, driving this thing, it's like I said, it's very difficult sometimes, especially on circuits not like this. This is quite easy here, but on circuits like Donington, it's truly difficult. There was one night where I did master it. I got around Donington a few times without crashing or spinning out or anything like that, and I felt really proud of myself. That's actually what inspired me to do that Donington Park video, except I didn't actually drive this car. I drove the W25, which we just drove, and as you can see, 191 miles an hour is what we're currently travelling at, just as you do. So comfortably beating that Mercedes already. So when this thing turned up, you can kind of imagine how Mercedes were like, oh god, no, let's build something else, which we'll get onto in a minute. But 191 miles an hour as we approach the end of the straight. I can just about see my normal brake markers. I'll normally brake just as this hay bell's passing, just there. Normally I'll brake now, but we're not going to do that. We're going to keep going, might get some air, or get a little bit, but you can see the weight difference at the back. It just went, phew, no, I'm not going to get any air. And we get, I don't know if you noticed at the end there, but we reached 193 miles an hour before we reached the end there. So that's currently the fastest silver arrow that we have in the inventory, but we have a couple more, don't worry. And sometimes I just do love to sit in this thing just to admire, especially this mod. It's absolutely wonderful how detailed this thing is, and especially when I turn around and see all these little scuffs and scratches everywhere. It's just absolutely wonderful. One of the best made mods ever. I think it was Gary Peterson who made this one, and the next one which we're going to feature. And my word, this car is a wonderful thing. And if you want to see me drive this thing more, maybe around historical Nürburgring, let me know in the comments. I'll do it. But yeah, so when Auto Union came along and brought this to the table, in 1937, Mercedes came along with something that could comfortably beat it. So once again we're at the wall of death, and here we are in the next competitor, the Mercedes W125, the successor to the W25 of course, and this thing is pretty much regarded as one of the most powerful Grand Prix cars of all time, especially when we're talking the 1930s. This thing had a massive 6-litre straight 8 engine in it with a supercharger as well, just for better effect, and it was also just incredibly, stupidly powerful, dangerous. I mean, this thing, right, to put it in perspective, the power output of this thing was not exceeded in racing until the 1960s when Can-Am series was in its heyday, and it wasn't exceeded in Grand Prix racing until the 1980s. Yeah, it's just crazy. This thing really just turned up. This is the most iconic of all of the Mercedes cars in the 1930s. This thing, and as you can see, there's a lot of holes everywhere. They tried to make this as light as possible, and boy is it light. I can't actually remember how light it was, but this was actually the car which spawned the Silver Arrow's nickname, because this was the one where it was slightly overweight, so they stripped off all the paint, scratched it off, and then became silver. It was originally white, but now it became silver, and that's what spawned it. But it's a wonderful mod, once again made by Gary Peterson, and yeah, if you think the Auto Union is hard to drive, this thing is even worse. Trust me, you're about to see why, as we're about to go on the Wall of Death and start our lap. So we've got 193 miles an hour to beat. I have a sneaky feeling we're going to beat that. Get a good exit. Nearly went horribly wrong. Full power. No, not full power. I'm scared. This thing just doesn't want to keep in a straight line. Come on. Please, just work with me. Wheel slippage. This thing is just completely capable of just wheel spinning at any moment. It's horrible. At tracks like this, it's not so bad, but at tracks like Donington, it's stupid. Do I have 5 gears? I don't know. I don't think I do. But we are trying to concentrate as much as I can to keep this thing in a straight line. No, we only have 4 gears. I just had a quick glance at the gearbox down there. 207 miles an hour. Look at that. So we've already beaten the Auto Union. And it's still climbing. We are slightly uphill, I will mention. We are slightly uphill, so that will affect ours time as well. But I wanted to record the speeds from the cars themselves. No other cars in the area, you know, getting the slipstream. This is their natural speed. So I was just about to hit that parrot, and then my heart had a little bit of a heart attack. So we're racing towards the end of the track already. This has been so quick. Notice all these trees flying past my head. I'm trying not to look at them, because this is what happens. I'll just verge off the side without me really knowing anything. I've got a small mirror as well, which is nice. We should get some air here. And oh, I've got some nice air. Right, 207, 207. Can we get a bit more? No. So it wasn't a dream. 207 miles an hour. That is absolutely crazy from a car from 1937. 207 miles per hour. Imagine seeing this thing back in the day. That must have been absolutely astonishing, or sensational, just crazy. And this thing only lasted a year. Now, I would have done the next car on that list, but it's a little bit slower than this car. It's actually the W154, which was the successor to this, because they had new regulations for 1938, and this didn't comply. So they had the 154 built, which was built in the same chassis, just had a different engine, a much smaller engine, and that could only put out a measly 183 miles an hour. This thing is just, I haven't actually seen one of these in real life, and one day I just wish I could. The sound is a lot different from what you're hearing in this video, but trust me, it's a wonderful car, and if you haven't downloaded this, go and download it. It's well worth your time. So that brings us to a little bit of a tricky situation. You'd think this car is the fastest, hands down. No, there's two more cars which appeared here at this track in Avis in 1937, which achieved almost legendary status. So let's check them out. Well, I think you all knew this was coming. Yep, that's right, we're back in this wonderful car again. It's been a few times I've featured this car on this channel, and it's always an absolute joy to drive. This is an Auto Union Type C, but as you can see, not just any Auto Union Type C. And this is the Streamlined version, built basically specifically for this track in 1937 for this race. And this showed up, and the Mercedes counterpart showed up, and pretty much the rest of the teams just went, no, there's just no ways. We're not going to beat this. And it achieved almost legendary status. Now, Avis was known for land speed record attempts before, but never this kind of thing had appeared in racing before. And it was used again in 1950s Formula 1 at Silverstone and Monza from Mercedes. But here is where it really shone. It was just incredible. Those iconic images of these and the Mercedes counterpart bang it out on that wall of death just there. Wonderful. I wish I was there. And as you can see, this interior is very similar to Auto Union Type C regular version. They've just slapped this awesome streamlining on it that looks so Art Deco. It just looks so beautiful. It's like piloting, yeah, either a a plane from that era, like a passenger plane, or a I would say an LNR A4 steam locomotive. If you don't know what that is, go and have a look. Oh, sorry, all systems go. Chocks away. We're almost ready. It's going to be wild. Brace yourselves. Oh. Not a great start, but we're away nonetheless. And we get to a bumpy ride. Lovely jubbly. Easy does it. Easy does it. We slide our way out. Now, I'm going to be interested to see how fast this thing can go on its own. The only time I've achieved any kind of speed, personal best on this game, is when there's other cars in the vicinity. And this thing is a lot easier to control than the regular Type C. Probably because there's maybe a little bit of downforce. The Auto Union Type C regular version doesn't actually have anything, but this might have a little bit. But they had no regards for aerodynamics or anything when they were designing this car. And in fact, this car has the potential of just taking off like an airplane. Now we've got 207 miles an hour to beat, which was obviously the speed of the Mercedes 125. And I also forgot to mention, we've already beaten the F1 car. The F1 car of 2022 from VRC, by the way, achieved 205 miles an hour here. We've beaten that in the W25, and we've beaten that here as we've just surpassed 208 miles an hour. So now, Auto Union, you can beat Mercedes, unless they have anything else streamlined, which I don't believe they do. Wink, wink. 209. So a little bit slower than what I thought, but still a lot faster than the regular version. The regular version obviously only came out at 193. So we're approaching the end, might gain a little bit of air coming at the top of this hill here. Have a look. Yep, very nice. Probably show you the replay of that. 209, can we get a little bit more? 210. 210. Pretty good, pretty, not too shabby. A little bit slower than what I thought it would be, but still pretty competitive. I don't know what I'm talking about. It's 1937. Of course, that's ridiculous for this time. And could you imagine how far this could have gone if the Second World War hadn't broken out? How far could have this technology gone? We would have seen like darts just flying around at 400 miles an hour in 1942. That could have happened. That could have been an interesting thing to look into. Like, what could have been? And we would have seen like F1 in 1950 being completely different. Maybe F1 never existed. We'll never know. But, yeah, 210 miles an hour out of this wonderful thing. Right, now it's time for the final car of this video. The Mercedes counterpart. Yep, so here we are, the final car of this video. What a car! This is the Mercedes W25 from 1937. Now, you're probably thinking, hang on a minute, you've already done the W25. Yes, I have, but this is the Streamlined version. This one was the one built to compete against the Auto Union Streamlined efforts at that famous race in 1937, which I've already talked about. And this thing is made by Historic Sim Studios once again, and this thing is incredibly difficult to drive. Now, in my most popular video where I actually raced this thing against the Auto Union here at Avis, I nearly crashed. I think I did crash, but I made an overtake on the Auto Union coming down this portion of the straight, and oh my, it was probably one of the most terrifying things I've ever had to do. It was so scary, and I highly encourage you to go and subscribe to his Patreon so you can download this car and try it out for yourself. So for the final time in this video, let's try and take it as careful as possible, because this thing is ridiculously hard to drive. Right, line up those rear tyres, take on the bumpy wall of death, and try and keep to the speed, because the turning circle of this car isn't great. It's fine. It does that, it does that. Stay still for a second. No! Oh god, it's all gone wrong. It's all gone wrong. My head. I've given myself a haircut. So take two to try and get the fastest out of this thing. And we're not starting by the wall of death, that's just there. We're going to start just at the end of the starting grid here at Avis to try and get the best out of this thing and not crash this time. Let's try and take it as gentle as possible. Just gently, that's all we need. Just slow and steady wins the race. That's what we've got to do. Oh God, I'm scared. Really trying to be as careful as I can. I thought so. Don't need my foot on the brake either. We're not going to be doing any of that here. This is this thing. War. And could you imagine trying to drive this car in a race situation for many hours at a time in real life? No, thank you. I think probably doing this race is one of those things I wouldn't want to do in real life. There's a lot of things I would want to do, but this ain't one of them. And we're already at 207 miles an hour. Already. We're not even halfway. We've reached the halfway mark now. But already, we've already surpassed the Auto Union. Now I'm going to try and keep this thing as straight as possible. The white marking is my indicator. Stay there. Give a bit more welly, 215 miles an hour now, so a lot faster than a modern Formula 1 car. In fact, that's probably the top speed you'll probably find an F1 car to reach in a race situation nowadays. Maybe a little bit faster, but I don't know. I'm not an F1 driver, I don't know. 217, that's where we got to last time. Obviously the higher rev, the more difficult this car becomes to control, but we've already beaten the Auto Union hands down. Can we get a little bit more? Can we survive this jump? A little bit, just about. 217 I think is what we can do. 280. Right, just for a split second there, I don't know if you saw it, but we just touched 218 miles an hour out of this thing. So we've beaten the Auto Union, we've beaten everything else, and we've also beaten modern F1. So F1, you could have that. I'm showing my middle finger. So anyone that says that 1930s racing was slow, think again. Just no, it was not slow at all. It was fast and it was seriously dangerous. And here's the video to prove it. And I hope you've enjoyed it, and I hope you've learned something as well. And do try out this track. Do download these cars as well. And like I said, download, subscribe to Historic Sim Studios Patreon. You will not regret it. And yeah, put all the timings up there as well, so you can have a look yourself and admire this wonderful car. Scary car as well. I don't like driving this thing. The Auto Union, yes, but this thing, it's just ridiculously difficult. And for some reason, it's my most popular video on this channel. And yeah, I thank you all for watching that video, and thank you for watching this video. And I hope you have a great rest of your week. Look out for a highlights video for the Season 2 Historic F1 series that we just concluded. That'll probably be this week, maybe. Probably, or maybe something else. I don't know. I never know. I'm busy in my life right now, so things are just, you know, it's Christmas, and yeah, enjoy the rest of your week. Check out some of my my other videos as well if you're new, and yeah, I'll see you in the next one, guys. See you later. Take care.